In the dim glow of a dusty Texas diner, under the hum of flickering neon lights, a young woman named Clara sat alone at the counter. Her sleeve rolled up just enough to reveal a small, intricate tattoo on her forearm, a simple eagle clutching a faded flag. The locals, a rowdy bunch of truckers and regulars, leaned in with smirks and whispers. "Look at that." One sneered, loud enough for the whole room to hear. Some wannabe patriot thinking she's tough with her little ink. Laughter erupted, sharp and cruel, cutting through the air like a knife. Clara's cheeks burned, but she didn't flinch. She just stared into her coffee, her fingers tracing the edges of that tattoo, a secret burning beneath her skin. If you're ready for a story that'll grip your heart and leave you speechless, hit that subscribe button right now, and let's dive into this unforgettable tale. Clara Thompson was no stranger to hard times. At 32, she'd grown up in the heart of a small, forgotten town called Willow Creek, Texas, where the dust clung to your boots and dreams felt like luxuries nobody could afford. Her father, a Vietnam vet, had raised her alone after her mother walked out when she was 5. He was a quiet man, his eyes carrying the weight of battles he never talked about. But he taught Clara one thing. Above all, strength wasn't about loud words or big gestures. It was about carrying your scars with pride. That tattoo on her arm, it wasn't just ink. It was a promise, a piece of her father's legacy, etched into her skin the day she turned 18. The eagle was his old unit's symbol, the flag a tribute to the country he'd fought for, even when it didn't fight for him. But to the folks in that diner, it was just a joke, a simple woman's attempt to play soldier. The ringleader of the mockery was Hank Grayson, a burly man in his 50s, with a beer gut and a voice that boomed like a thunderstorm. He owned the local auto shop and thought he ran the town. "What's a girl like you know about sacrifice?" he taunted, slamming his mug on the counter. "That tattoo's probably from some mall parlor, ain't it? Bet you cried when they put it on." The others laughed harder, egging him on. Clara's grip tightened around her cup, her knuckles white. She could have walked away. She could have ignored them, but something in her snapped. "You don't know a damn thing about me," she said, her voice low but steady, cutting through the noise like a blade. The diner went quiet for a split second, but then Hank leaned closer, his breath sour with cheap whiskey. "Oh, we know plenty, sweetheart. You're just another nobody with a story you think makes you special." Clara stood up, her chair scraping against the linoleum floor. She was slight, barely 5'4", with calloused hands from years of working odd jobs, cleaning houses, waiting tables, fixing fences. She wasn't loud or flashy, but there was a fire in her hazel eyes that made people pause when they really looked. "Keep talking, Hank," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel. "One day, you'll eat those words." She threw a few dollars on the counter and walked out, the bell above the door jingling as the door slammed shut behind her. The diner erupted in laughter again, but Hank's smirk faltered for just a moment. Something about the way Clara carried herself stuck with him, like a splinter he couldn't pull out. The next few weeks in Willow Creek were tense. Clara kept to herself, working her shifts at the local feed store, her tattoo hidden under long sleeves. But the town was small, and gossip spread like wildfire. Hank and his crew made it their mission to keep the joke alive. They'd catcall her on the street, leave snide notes on her truck's windshield, even spray-painted "wannabe" on the side of the feed store one night. Clara didn't fight back, not yet. She just worked harder, saved every penny, and waited. She knew something the town didn't. That tattoo wasn't just a memory of her father. It was a key to a world they couldn't imagine. A world of honor, sacrifice, and secrets that could shatter their small-town arrogance. The turning point came on a sweltering July afternoon during the town's annual 4th of July festival. Willow Creek's festival was the biggest event of the year: parades, barbecue, fireworks, and a ceremony to honor local veterans. Clara had always attended, sitting quietly in the back, her father's old service cap tucked under her arm. This year, though, Hank had other plans. He'd convinced the festival committee to let him MC the Veterans Tribute, a move that raised eyebrows but went unchallenged because, well, Hank always got his way. As the ceremony began, he took the stage with a grin, microphone in hand. "Let's hear it for our brave men and women," he bellowed, and the crowd cheered. But then his eyes landed on Clara, standing near the back with a few other locals. "And let's not forget our aspiring heroes," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Clara Thompson, everybody, show us that fancy tattoo of yours." The crowd tittered, some laughing, others shifting uncomfortably. Clara's jaw tightened, but she didn't move. Hank wasn't done. "Come on, girl, don't be shy. Tell us what it's like to play soldier with your little birdie ink." The laughter grew louder, and Clara felt the weight of every stare. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. She took one step forward, then another, until she was at the edge of the stage. "You want to see it?" she asked, her voice clear and strong, carrying over the crowd. Hank chuckled, thinking he'd won. "Go ahead, sweetheart. Show us what you're so proud of." Clara rolled up her sleeve, revealing the eagle and flag in all its detail. The crowd murmured, some impressed by the artistry, others still snickering. But Clara wasn't looking at them. She was looking past Hank, past the stage, to a man who'd just arrived at the edge of the crowd. He was older, maybe 60, with a weathered face and a posture that screamed military, even in civilian clothes. His eyes locked on Clara's tattoo, and something shifted in his expression, recognition, maybe even shock. Hank, oblivious, kept talking. "See? Told ya. Just a pretty picture for a pretty wannabe." That's when the man stepped forward. The crowd parted instinctively, like they could sense the authority radiating from him. He wore a simple button-down shirt, but the way he moved, deliberate, commanding, made it clear he was no ordinary spectator. He climbed the steps to the stage, and Hank's smirk faded. "Who the hell are you?" Hank demanded, but his voice cracked slightly. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he stopped a few feet from Clara, his eyes never leaving her tattoo. Then, slowly, he rolled up his own sleeve, revealing an identical eagle clutching a faded flag. The crowd gasped. Hank's face went pale. "I'm General Richard Harlan," the man said, his voice deep and steady, cutting through the stunned silence. "United States Army, retired. And that tattoo, Mr. Grayson, is the mark of the 173rd Airborne Brigade, my unit. Clara's father, Sergeant Thomas Thompson, served under me in Vietnam. He saved my life, and the lives of a dozen men in a firefight most people wouldn't survive. That little birdie ink is a symbol of courage most of you couldn't dream of." The festival grounds were dead silent now. The only sound the faint crackle of the barbecue pits in the distance. Clara's eyes welled up, but she didn't look away from the general. She'd never met him before, but she'd heard her father speak of Harlan in his rare moments of openness, always with reverence. Hank tried to speak, but no words came out. The general turned to him, his gaze like a predator sizing up prey. "You mocked this woman," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. "You mocked her father's sacrifice. You mocked every man and woman who's ever worn this symbol. Apologize, now." Hank stammered, his face red with humiliation. I didn't know. I was just..." The general cut him off. "You didn't know because you didn't care. You saw a woman you thought was beneath you and decided to tear her down. But Clara Thompson is more than you'll ever be." The crowd was hanging on every word, some nodding, others looking at Clara with new respect. Hank muttered an apology, barely audible, and slunk off the stage, his head down. The general turned to Clara, his stern expression softening. "Your father was a hero, Clara, and from what I can tell, you're carrying his strength." The festival didn't end there. The general took the microphone and told the story of Sergeant Thomas Thompson, how he'd carried a wounded soldier 3 miles through enemy territory, how he'd refused to leave anyone behind, how he'd earned that eagle tattoo with blood and grit. Clara stood beside him, no longer the quiet woman in the back. She was the daughter of a legend, and the town saw it. By the time the fireworks lit up the sky that night, Clara wasn't just Clara anymore. She was a symbol of resilience, of quiet strength that didn't need to shout to be heard. But the story doesn't end with the festival. In the weeks that followed, Willow Creek changed. Hank's auto shop lost customers, his reputation tarnished by his public humiliation. Clara, on the other hand, was approached by the local VFW, who offered her a leadership role in their outreach program. She started a scholarship in her father's name for kids from tough backgrounds, funding it with donations that poured in after the general's speech went viral on social media. And General Harlan, he became a regular visitor to Willow Creek, mentoring Clara and sharing stories of her father that brought her closer to the man she'd lost too soon. The tattoo that once made her a target became her crown. Clara wore it proudly, no longer hiding it under sleeves. She spoke at schools, at veteran events, even at the state capitol, her voice steady and powerful, carrying her father's legacy forward. And every time someone asked about that eagle and flag, she'd smile and say, "It's not just a tattoo. It's a promise to live with courage, to stand tall, and to never let anyone make you feel small." As the camera pans out on Clara standing tall under a Texas sky, her tattoo gleaming in the sunlight, we're left with a truth that hits deep. Sometimes the quiet ones carry the loudest stories, and sometimes it takes just one moment, one sleeve rolled up, one truth revealed to change everything. So tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop it in the comments below, and let's keep this story alive together.